Okay, so I just watched Weapons the other day, and it was one of the best films I've watched in 2025, up there with 28 Years Later. Honestly, it was phenomenal. I went into the film expecting this incredibly Hollywoodized, Hollywoodized, numb film that I've seen a gazillion times. It was the complete opposite, full of originality, very unique. Now, first things first, getting into the structure, there was the whole 2 hours was told in these kind of 20-minute short film segments from, I believe, five different characters' perspectives. And basically, what it would be is in these 20-minute sequences would almost be their motivations and why the reason to why in which they're doing something. So obviously, the teacher trying to figure out why all these children have disappeared and vanished, or Josh Brolin trying to figure out what happened to his child. And ultimately, at the end of it, they all amalgamated into one to create meaning. And this non-linear storytelling was phenomenal, and it was so good, and it was made the film more exciting. But on top of all this, the film was full of terror. I think terror is the word to sum it up. Not particularly scary, not particularly disturbing, but terror, adrenaline pumping. You know, you wanted to know what happened next, but you also didn't. But you wanted to know. You wanted to know what happened to these children. Why did it happen to that city? And, you know, I think the film also blends a mixture of great comedy sequences along with humor, and the ending is absolutely phenomenal. It was great. On top of all this, the performances were brilliant. I mean, if we check the performances out, all the adults are great, all the children were great. They were all believable. And, you know, and even more. I mean, the camera work was just fantastic. It was very energetic, very upbeat, particularly and predominantly with the first 20 minutes. It was very much like Goodfella-esque, a lot of tilts, lots of chucking, lots of tracking, and that added to that excitement. It made me really immersed into the film straight off the bat. There was also some fantastic gory sequences and violent sequences that were very memorable, particularly one in the middle of the film, which I'm not going to give away, but was very eerie when the main character is sleeping in the car and something happens where the camera zooms into a door, and obviously zooming being, you know, again that kind of Goodfellas style, but also very eerie because our eyes can't zoom. So on top of all this as well, it was also obviously I watched it in a British cinema, and with Britain and British cinemas, what I tend to find is that people are quite reserved. You know, people are quite quiet, keep themselves to themselves, and nobody really wants to react too loudly. I don't know if this is true, but with American cinemas, from what I've seen on social media, it typically tends to be, you know, quite the opposite. People tend to be quite loud, rowdy, and kind of laughing. And I would love to have that experience because that shows a cinematic experience. But with this film, people were rummaging around their seats, whispering to each other a bit too loud, or I could overhear them. When there was jump scares, when there was, you know, creepy things going on, people would literally be saying, "Oh my god," like that, like literally saying that. And you know, people, even when there'd be jump scares, they'd be like, "Oh," and it actually makes sounds, but they were making sounds. People were having this immersive experience.